Good morning, everyone, and welcome to American Scouser's Morning Coffee or Tea with American Scouser on a Monday morning. So Grumpy is in full effect, and the Polish Prince is here. What's going on?
Not much, not much. Still waiting to hear from our man in charge, but that's okay. I am going to just patiently await his first words, and hopefully I won't keep spiraling any more than others have.
Some words it will be when he comes out. He just gives some groundbreaking comments. You know what? That's the funny thing. Like everybody's like just waiting on like pins and needles, and I think it's gonna end up being
Hello,
yeah,
my
just
name is Arne.
like, happy to be here, blah blah blah, kind of a thing. I don't think it's gonna be a lot, and looking like we're not gonna get a whole lot of news until the Euros are kind of like, at least some of the teams in the Euros are being put away and being sent back home, kind of like an ordeal. By the way, as always, we're brought to you by Reckless Coffee Roasters, but no freaking coffee in Grumpy today because I have a freaking doctor's appointment. So no coffee in the system is a tricky concept when you're used to it.
I thought you weren't going to tell anyone and just keep sipping the water out of it, but
Yeah, that's the thing. It was just not going to be realistic for me to constantly sip water, like cold water, like just sipping, enjoying it first thing in the morning, kind of a thing. Yeah, and this is what pisses me off. They never tell you. This is just like a checkup thing. I just want to make sure I'm going to be around to see you become king. So I got to go make sure.
wait a long time for that.
Make sure I'm going to be around. But they actually did not tell me. But past the experience of doing these things, that's why I usually schedule them normally even earlier, because they do a bunch of tests afterwards. So they do blood tests and stuff. Well, if you don't fast, they were like, "Were you fasting?" They're like, "Normally, who the hell is fasting, right? Like nobody's going around constantly fasting." So they never said anything, but I know by experience. So when they say tests, I'm gonna be like, "Aha! I've been fasting, so I can do it right now." Because I don't want to go back and do like freaking just for a blood test, go back to the clinic and stuff like that. But that should be fun, something to look forward to always, to see what happens. So but you mentioned, let's start with that. You did mention Arne not saying anything, but okay, here's the deal. It could always be worse, where you can still be making your mind up about who the manager is going to be and stuff like that. I mean, we always talk about United and what a mess and how things are. It sets a good standard, I think, when you want to evaluate FSG and stuff like that. You can be like, or it could be like this. I know it's like the other extreme, but I mean, that seems really bad, doesn't it? Where they're kind of on limbo in mid-June. Because even if after this point you say, oh, yeah, we're going to stay with Ten Hag, it's pretty clear that it's mainly because none of your other options or thoughts really panned out.
Right. Or the people that you wanted to come in don't want anything to do with your club now. After witnessing things like having said that Ten Hag is going to get sacked no matter what the outcome of the final was, and then he goes out and wins the final, and all of a sudden everyone's like, okay, 2 trophies in 2 years. The organization itself is a giant mess, but maybe there isn't all bad here. But at the same time, we've seen, his philosophy and the way that this style of play doesn't always mesh well with who he has on the team. But at the same time, he brought in some of those guys. It's not like he was handed a team. He's been able to build a team that he's wanted. So you would expect that there would be more sustained success as far as how much they're spending on these guys and who is coming in. So yes, as you're saying, it's always good to have some sort of a clear vision. And right now, when they're looking into the future, all they see is like a ton of broken glass, if you will, and just reflections coming out, demons coming from one side, and it doesn't make any sense. And we're probably, we're glad to be in the situation that we are. Granted, we don't know how it's going to go, but at least we have some sort of an actual established path.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. And I think that for the most part, the case for him is the fact that what you mentioned, the place is a mess. And despite that, He's at least won some trophies, kind of a thing. And I think it's more continuity because I think people know that it's a mess, and they feel like whoever comes in is set up to fail anyway. At least this guy knows the mess that he's in. I just feel like, middle of June almost, and you're still like doing the very clear. We're trying to see if this guy or that guy is going to come because I mean the body of work is not going to change. Like it's not like he can do something in like June 13th that you're like, we should still keep this guy around. So you either know and happy with what he does, or you're not. And I just get when they're clearly not clear about it, you would think the message is, yeah, we're not sure on you, dude, but if there's nobody else better, I guess. And that's
Yeah.
good for the rest of the team.
Oh, I think if anything, if there were to be a time to have this kind of a mess, it is a good time to have it while you have the Euros going on, while you have the Copa America going on, because you can have your players, because most of United players are playing international football, right? And they're at the level that they are, so they are getting international football. So these guys are away with their countries and not necessarily thinking about club football. So at least it's a good summer in that sense, because they're not sitting around or on, even if they were on vacation, they'd still be getting some messages. Not that they're not getting messages now, but they'd maybe be sitting on their phones a bit more, kind of a little disturbed about what to possibly think of where things are going, what's going to happen. Whereas at least now they have the international tournaments to not worry about that in the meantime. So, they picked a good time to have even of a shittier mess than they've had. I guess that's where I'm going with it.
Yeah, I just feel like the whole uncertainty and the fact that, there is not enough support behind them would make it tricky when you get back and, you have, and he's had situations like Sancho, Ronaldo, and stuff like that. So it doesn't help, address those things. I mean, they always, like Klopp, we see him as, oh yeah, like he goes around and, like gives hugs and stuff like that. But if you ever listen to people like, Milner and Van Dijk and, Hendo and stuff like that, I mean, they tell you what he says goes, and he's pretty, adamant about that concept. So to be able to have that, nobody has to look over their shoulder, and you got to be confident in that. And if you don't have like a stamp of approval from the top, it's always going to be questioned, and people are going to test the waters, and then it's going to become, well, dad said no, let me go ask mom, kind of like an ordeal. Hold on, it's Greek day today. Kalimera, probably, right? That sounded
Nice.
about. That sounded
good.
good.
Yeah.
That sounded authentic, right? Okay.
Yeah.
Served with a side of feta cheese. Which, by the way, freaking Anan is supposed to be sending me this feta cheese. If you're like a, you're a European dude. Have you ever had feta cheese that's spreadable? It's Monday, so we got to talk food.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where?
We've purchased it.
Where? What? How come I don't see it? Because I'm not a big feta cheese fan, but growing up back home, there was this, and you couldn't even find it everywhere back home. It's like, it's still like, like a cube, if you will.
Yeah.
But you kind of like can get it with like a butter knife. Ryan says, try for 10 minutes to get on here. Internet at work is shits. Make the site worth. Well, no promises. We're talking spreadable feta cheese this morning. So the bar is pretty low.
I've asked the boss, and I'm going to get my response. Hopefully, I'm thinking of the right one. Maybe I'm thinking of the wrong cheese altogether.
How does it come in terms of format, and how can you think of the feta cheese in the wrong way? Is the follow-up question.
Because we've had so much cheese in our life, and especially in the last 5 years. So for me, all the cheeses have just melted together into one big cheese, and I'm very much a type of person where I don't know if I've said this before on the show, but I don't have a great palate in the sense of I think everything just tastes good most of the time. There's not much.
That's not like having a great palate, though. That's more like you can taste the differences, though, right? You're not like
yeah. I guess I'm not. I don't have a discernible palate as much as others do, where they will they will go out and they will have a meal and say, you know, like certain aspects of it being to this or to that. And for me, it's just, yeah, it was good most of the time. You know, there's not much that I can go off of. However, I will say, I don't think we've ever purchased spreadable feta cheese. You may be thinking of goat cheese, which is more creamy and spreadable. And here we are.
Thank God Michelle is Michelle is within reach, so she can set the record straight. Yes, goat cheese and feta cheese are very different, my friend. So she says Calamari was good morning, missed your whole cheese combo. No, I made like a Greek feta cheese reference.
No, seriously,
I am very offended as a Mediterranean person that over here in the US, they can take any random dish, throw feta cheese and 3 Kalamata olives in there, and make it Mediterranean or Greek or Turkish and stuff. It just doesn't work like that, people. But, you know, the feta cheese conversation reminded me because we were talking on Discord, which, by the way, I just said Kalamata olives. See, like, wake up, Ryan. We're talking Kalamata olives now. So we were talking in the Discord channel, which if you are not, I'll shoot a invite over here now, because these are the conversations that you're missing out on, because we have like a food channel. I'm assuming it came up over there. And we were kind of like talking about it. And he's like, I'm like, oh man, they used to have this back in the day when I was back home growing up, kind of thing. He's like, they have it here. I buy it out in Michigan. So like from, like he said, like an Arabic market or something like that. So he is supposed to be sending it my way over here, but then he thought he could just put cheese in a box and send it. So, you know, he's going through the complications of what it takes to send refrigerated items via FedEx over there, so that I don't get it over here all moldy and stuff like that. Okay, see, we got olives, we got Ryan back. I don't know, is there a lot? I mean, okay, olives. What type of olive? Pick an olive type. I know you said I have no palate, I have no preferences, but
yeah, let's see. Black olives are good. Kalamata olives are good. It's gonna
just the fact that you said black olives and put them all in one basket says you're not an olive.
No,
guy.
I know. I will say when we were in Spain, the olives are fantastic. I can't tell you which ones were which. I'm going to probably offend a bunch of people and say blue cheese stuffed olives are great. Yeah.
Blue cheese stuffed olives. Yeah, I'm not a big blue cheese fan.
We would, when I worked behind the bar still, we would we would make our own blue cheese, and then we would take and actually fill the olives ourselves with that blue cheese. Yeah, it was actually, those were my favorite olives because I could just have them whenever I wanted. I think that's what makes things even better is when you can just have it whenever you want it, and it's just there for you.
That's the best kind of olive. Olives you can eat. But yeah, it's I think, was it jalapeno stuffed olives that we were making? Bloody Marys, you can just like dump them in there with stick, and yeah, that's a good combo. But just don't say Satke is crap on Discord. Hard to come out of that alive. Yeah, Discord it's pretty intense. I don't get into
it's if you end up in a debate with Gally that, you know, you won't let up, he won't let up, and the fisticuffs get thrown. But it's fun to read and just scroll through.
It's too long to read. For example, the Southgate conversation, I kind of got like a gist of it. Then I was like, yeah, I'm out, because it was going. Everybody was responding in paragraphs, and I was like, yeah, this is not going to happen right now. And that's the thing with the Discord channel. I think a lot of the people who come in kind of have like issue with it at times, because you're not going to keep up with all the conversations, especially as our channel gets bigger and bigger over there. You're going to treat it like going to a pub. And then maybe like see the recent conversations. What were you guys just talking about, kind of a thing? You don't go to a pub and be like, tell me everything you guys have been talking about while I was gone in the last 6 hours.
Give me the tapes. Let me watch it back.
So yeah, you're never going to be able to catch that. I did not hear about the Robertson injury. Did they do a friendly?
I don't think it's as serious as it's being said. I think I read something this morning about it being just more precautionary than anything, just like Sobos. So I don't think he will miss the Euros unless something else has changed within the last hour.
Sir Z has some sources. You never know. Ryan says England will get to the semis and lose in shootouts. If South is cool with you for that, that's cool. Oh, we got to hook you up with Gally on on Discord to kind of like talk about that. But and that actually, our boys are playing in a friendly later today.
Yes, it would have been a lot of fun to do the watch along, but unfortunately,
Yes, yes.
that
Angie is like, you guys should do like a live watch along for that, and I was like, that would be interesting. But honestly, like I don't know how you feel, and I don't know like what people think. Like for friendlies, U.S. concept is a little different. I really because qualifying is, let's face it, it's a lot easier to qualify through Americas as opposed to qualifying in Europe. Um, but I almost get the sense with these friendlies before a tournament, I almost don't want my team doing too good because Turkey is a country that thrives on being the underdog. Anytime we go into something semi-confident, it just blows up in our face. So it's almost like I want to see a good performance, but I don't want to see it too good because then the first game, and that's the thing, they're playing their easiest game on paper as the first game, which is always tricky because that's one that you definitely need 3 points from in the group. Do you watch and say, do you want them to play solid going into a tournament, or is it the same thing?
it doesn't really matter for Poland because they could, whether they play like shit and they go into the tournament, then they play like shit. Whether they play great and then go into the tournament, they still play like shit. So there really hasn't been. The last time I was genuinely excited for a Euro was 2016, because that was sort of the golden age of from my generation. Because Poland had their golden age in the 80s, when they were third place in the World Cup. I mean, like 70s, 80s. But in 2016, when they had Błaszczykowski, Piszczek, and Lewandowski, who were just, two of them were at Dortmund still, one of them now were at Bayern. They had Krychowiak, who was the anchor in it as DM. And Gleek was much better than he was now, obviously, because it was 8 years ago, so everyone was younger. Yeah. And they made it past the group stage. They made it past Switzerland in the round of 16. Shaqiri had one of the greatest goals in Euro history. It was like a semi bicycle from right outside the box that hit the post on the near side.
I can't picture this.
Gorgeous goal. But they beat Switzerland in penalties, and then they played Portugal, took the lead, lost the lead, and then lost in penalties to Portugal. And Portugal obviously ended up winning the whole thing. So that was the most exciting time for me. And ever since then, it's just been all downhill. So there really isn't much if anything, I'm excited for possibly the new batch of younger Poles coming up through the ranks, and sort of, the passing of the guard of the old core. Because for a while it was, and maybe you have some experience with this for the Turkish team as well. And this is partly why some managers can't do the national team thing. Players were getting called up just because of seniority or experience, but not necessarily their form. And from 2018 to like 2022, that's what Poland was, is just, oh yeah, you guys were good once upon a time, you're in. And there was nothing to be excited about. So at least now there's a much bigger shift in who is going and who will be there.
Turkey, yes, Turkey. I keep saying Turkey too. Gotta slowly work it into the system. It's Turkey and Poland. Yes, they are playing as the friendly. And Sergi says, if I was a Turkey fan, I would take and cherish any win. I don't know which national team that Sergi is rooting for. Is it England that Sergi roots for?
No, he does not root for England. I can tell you that.
Oh, so you just like standing outside talking shit. I got it. I think it's what I get frustrated with. I mean, when we talk about Klopp and the national team and stuff like that, these are things that I can see Klopp doing, though, where he has certain loyalty and he will keep calling the same guys regardless of form, because he's trying to build that team with those guys in it, and form goes out the door kind of a thing. I just feel like, that's not really as fair for because you have these players, like the other day when they played friendly, Altay was in goal from United, and Altay has not, I think, played one game for United all season, which I love Altay as a player and a person and stuff like that, because obviously he played for Fenerbahce. But is that really fair to the other goalies that are like, hey man, like I've been playing all year and playing well. This guy just happens to be eating lunch with Onana. Apart from that, at this point, he has no credibility to be able to like get on the pitch and represent the country, kind of thing. So I know I would be some uh, like I say, I don't know. I would be irked if I'm a player if I see these guys getting called. Whatnot. How are we all not doing that menu today? Ryan says. You know what? That's a good point. We should have done the menu with the live watch along. But
Oh wow, that would have been some feat.
Simon says sluggish FSG. The FSG bashing. You missed it. We were just talking about it could be worse. I covered this already, but I don't know. I don't think anything begins already because I don't see anything happening. People are trying to sort their managers and their like the powers that be, like our Edwards and stuff like that, the sporting directors and all that kind of stuff. So I feel like in that sense, we're ahead of the game. Do you get worried because there's no movements, or the fact that at least the right places people are in place, more confident than there must be a plan, right? Kind of a thing.
Yeah, and since my theory of having a bunch of business done early June is now null and void because there has been no business early June, then there has to be some sort of, because Edwards and co, they don't just walk around just waiting for something to happen. They're very much go-getters, and they'll do what they think they need to do. So I think the international tournaments have squashed quite a bit of that business, and I guess we will just have to wait till the end of the tournaments, or at least till the end of a specific nation is knocked out to have any of those conversations. I might get crucified for this on here as well, but I feel like with the pieces that the club has, we're not in so much dire need of reinforcements like we were last summer. Yes, there are some holes, but it's not like it's so necessary that the entire team will collapse if this piece isn't here, so to speak.
Not here or not here early?
I guess not here.
Because if you don't get a center back, I'm worried.
I'm not saying that I won't be worried, but last year we lost 5 midfielders, whatever it was, and we're thinking, where is our midfield? Went out, bought 3 midfielders, right?
Yeah.
So yes, we have needs, but it's not as much of a desperation as it was last year. Not saying that I don't want any business, because I do want business to happen, but there is a feeling of, okay, some of these pieces are here. They're not the best pieces in the world in some of these positions, but they will do until we can get some business sorted.
Yeah, I agree to that. And I think because of the current team, the bringing them before the preseason is important, like Said is saying.
Yes.
And I think we're all in agreement that, like a center back and a defensive midfielder. And I'm assuming they're on board with it as well. But I think the fact that it is a team that's a bit more settled, like we felt last year that, hey, these guys need time and stuff like that. So the earlier, the better kind of thing. But aside from that, I just don't think doesn't matter if you sign somebody right now. It's just because he's going to be at the Euros and then he's going to have 2 weeks off after that and stuff. It's not like, even if you sign somebody today, they're flying on their way back from, the Euros into your camp. They're probably going to have all these guys usually get 2 to 3 weeks off, as they should, because otherwise it doesn't matter if they come in and they're injured right away. So that's going to happen. I think the fact that the Euros and there is Copa America at the same time. So any high caliber player you buy is in one of these tournaments. You go buy Ederson, he's with Brazil. So none of these guys are just going to show up. Maybe that's why I'm not as worried. And I think it goes back to what you're saying. The fact that it's not as dire. Like if the season started now, today, you're able to put out a starting 11 out there that, we feel confident in getting the job done overall. So whereas last year, this time, you couldn't probably make a starting 11 for midfield.
Right. And yeah, so, and I do understand that there are weaker positions, and I'm not saying that, and just like you're saying, we're not saying that this team is perfect and we don't need business. We're just saying that there isn't going to be any business currently, because no matter what business you do, unless it's someone who isn't playing at the national level, you're not going to bring them in anyway. And if they're not at the international level, then they're probably not good enough to start. Right? I mean,
yes,
like you have to think about the starting 11 from all of the big clubs around the world. Every player represents a national team at some level. And so if you're going to go out and grab someone from the championship, let's say, who isn't, maybe playing for the U21s in Brazil or whatever the case might be, sure, they might be good enough to start, but you're still also just taking a bit of a gamble.
Yeah, I mean, here's the deal. Like any player that's a good player are probably betting on themselves for the Euros or Copa America and stuff like that, and the fact that their value is going to go up. And I would think in most cases their clubs are kind of betting on that as well. So they're not going to sell you a guy right now for 15 who can have a good, really solid tournament and become 25 in just 3 weeks. And if they're brutal in the tournaments, they're not going to lose that much. So you might lose like 3% value, but you might, gain another 50. I'm rolling the dice with the 50. And, like seeing that you have like a solid tournament. I mean, I know I was just reading, like in the Turkish thing, like Galatasaray is now like in freaking panicking because they have the center back from Denmark who's injured, not going to be there. So now his value is on titters. Whereas, like Çağlar Soyuncu, who's still an Atletico Madrid player, is not going to be able to go to the Euros. He just got like moved out of the squad. While his value, like he just became a lot more affordable. So you just got to kind of wait till the Euros are done. I mean, there is very rare and small business being done. But I saw this yesterday. I thought it really kind of relates a little bit to us, that Newcastle is going after Trafford and the starting offer is 16. The reason I find that interesting, I was telling you before the show, is what does that put Kelleher's value at? Because I know a lot of people were like 40, 50 and stuff like that. But if Trafford is 16 with Premier League experience as a starter, isn't Kelleher somewhere around there, 20, 25-ish?
Yeah, but he's ours, so he has to be more. We value him more. We're a bit biased. I'd say Kelleher would still probably be in that 25 to 35 range. I understand that Trafford has the experience, and he's touted as one of England's next up and coming goalkeepers. And I feel like with Newcastle specifically, they feel like he fits. Him and Pope are similar goalies in that sense, and he fits the mold of what they're looking for. But Kelleher has the added experience of European experience. He has the trophy competition experience. He's won a couple trophies. He's scored the game-winning penalty. Or I mean, he technically Kepa booted his over the crossbar, but you know what I mean. So I feel like that body of work, it's been for an extended amount of time, where he's kind of proved it for several years. Whereas Trafford, he's still very young. He's 21, 22.
Yes.
Kelleher's 26, 27.
Yeah,
so
I think he is. When I was looking earlier, I think he's 21.
Yeah, and so Kelleher's kind of getting into that prime of goalkeeping, because the prime of the goalkeeper starts a bit later usually than it does for an outfield player, or at least it's more sustainable than the outfield player. So I do think that 30 is still reasonable. But yeah, when we were talking, people saying 40, 50, that's just no team is going to spend that much on a keeper like that.
Yeah, I think so as well. I mean, Newcastle going for exactly. This is I brought this up because these are the players that are being talked about right now. I mean, do we want Trafford, or do you want a Trafford level person? It's just not a need we have. I mean, here's the thing: if FSG or Liverpool went out right now and signed like a 12 million player or 16 million player, let's face it, Saido, you're still gonna be over here complaining.
Oh, they didn't spend enough. So, this guy's no good.
That's the thing. That's the only business happening right now, and I think honestly, most teams are trying to make sure their like managers are in place more than anything else. So just if Trafford is 16, realistically, Kelleher should be around 30. So what makes Kelleher twice as valuable than Trafford? I just find, I mean, and not to mention, let me ask you this: does the fact that he pretty much went out and said he wants to be sold because he knows, Alisson's not going anywhere, so and he's not going to be number one. He pretty much said like he would like to be number one somewhere, so he's for being sold. Does that make it a bit more difficult?
Maybe in a sense it could. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like when we had a conversation revolving around Kelleher, whether I don't remember if this was, I think it was probably right around winter time, and when he was picking up quite a bit of form because he had to play, and we had talked about how realistically, he could play for what was it, like 16 out of the 20 clubs in the Premier League, most likely. He'd be able to start for them. If any, I mean, maybe 14 out of the 20. When I think of Trafford, I don't think he realistically gets into the top half of the table right now as far as keeping. So maybe that's for me where I see that added value is that I could see Kelleher start in goal for a majority of the league, whereas with Trafford, I don't think I could be comfortable seeing him start for more than half the teams in the league.
And it's different too, right? I mean, it's that kind of a tricky thing. I guess in that sense, Kelleher is probably more worth to a team, but to a better team. Alan says Trafford is out of form and was dropped. Yeah, like what was it, like the last 2 months or so, right? He got benched. And not that he was that great before. I just feel like in terms of experience, but going back to Kelleher, I mean, in some ways, it's a different type of goalkeeping, right? From being the Trafford or playing on a team where you're constantly in the game and a lot. You know, I mean, that's a different kind of goalkeeping as opposed to a player like, like let's say Alisson or Ederson or somebody like that, who your team mostly has the ball, and you're going to be called up on, and you have to make a crucial save after not doing anything for like 15 minutes. And that's like really two very different types of goalkeeping. And I think sometimes some goalkeepers that are like, and we always say it, right? Every time this guy plays us, he becomes this and stuff like that. Like, they're standing on their head because some of those goalies thrive on that. But if they played for a big team, they'd be cold literally. So it would be, one counter and they can't make that crucial save. That's what I think like makes Alisson the world's best, really, because he can do both and he doesn't have to do the former, thankfully, but the latter at least he can do. So I think in that sense, it'll be Trafford conceded 78 goals plus all the expense that Matusha's mentions. And depends on like the team you're going to, though, doesn't it? Like if you're going to like European experience, does it matter if you're going to Forest?
No, but it would matter for teams that have any European competition where they might see some rotation. So maybe it matters in that sense. But Newcastle will not have Europe next year because it's so. Yeah, and it's tough because we're comparing someone who played for a side that got relegated, right? Who they were going to concede a lot of goals. But if you think about Newcastle, 2 seasons ago, defensively, they were great, right? Last year, defensively, they were awful. They were leaking goals left and right. And so if you have someone who's coming from a side that gave up a lot of goals, doesn't necessarily give you a lot of confidence knowing that this team also gives up a lot of goals. Yes, they're a better team overall, but it's not like their defense is much better. But injuries play a part in that. So who knows, if how it would be if they were all healthy. But I think you made the perfect point about just different goalkeepers having different playing styles, and some of them are better off taking a lot of shots, and some of them are better off having one save a game.
Who do you think? I mean, if we move Kelleher, and here's the thing, like we've had a lot of injuries from Alisson, maybe because he plays with his feet a lot more than a regular goalkeeper, or whatever the case might be. But we've had more injuries with him. So you do want a reliable second. I mean, I think we're all in agreement that Adrian is there as the leader, an additional voice in the locker room, in the goalkeeper's room, whatever, and then maybe like a future coach kind of a deal. But what kind of a goalie then we have to turn around and sign? That will be less, or do we go with some of the what is that young Polish kid's name?
Oh,
And there's that young Brazilian kid.
Yeah, the young Brazilian is Pitaluga. The Polish. Oh my!
Didn't we have like a young Polish kid that we signed?
Fabian Mrożek, but he left.
Look at that.
He left.
Wait. By the way, you just threw that out there, right? You did a little Polish there.
Yeah.
Played it a little Polish. What did I hear the other day where you know what? I was trying to like put together a video and I saw you pronounce your name even different than how I say it. Because I say Mateusz because the I'm familiar with that, like Zbyszek kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But you say it's like the A or something like that differently. I was like, I didn't know that.
Mateusz.
Maybe you said Ma.
Yeah.
And I say like Mateusz. So it's Mateusz. That's gonna take.
And
it's like gonna be Turkey and Turkey. I've said this for so many times now. It's gonna be hard to turn back.
And you also have where the TE you put a te in there, so you're saying like Mateusz. It's te Mateusz. So it's not a big deal. Obviously,
tomato. No.
I tell people to just call me Mateusz around these parts, so that I make it even easier for most people. So yeah, the fact that you even put in that extra little effort in the enunciation is great.
Oh God, yeah. Okay, so it's Mateusz. Is that better?
Mateusz.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah, like I said, this is gonna be Turkey thing. It's gonna be going back and forth.
Okay.
So what kind of a goalie? I mean, do you trust those young guys? Or because now whatever you get, you have to go get somebody, or do we get like a this younger version of Adrian, another experienced guy, maybe not as old as Adrian?
We already have Adrian, so why do we need anyone else? The perfect guy. Shout out to John for the perfect job that I agree with. That would be fantastic to be a third choice keeper, make a lot of money and be loved by everyone in the locker room. I mean, who wouldn't want that kind of setup?
Yeah, because you're the easygoing, no stress guy.
Yeah,
like, guys, it's gonna be okay.
Darwin's best friend. Everything is good, so that's perfect. It always goes back to that conversation we have. I feel like we talk anytime we talk about transfers, this comes up in the sense that it's so easy for us to say some names and wanting certain players to come here. It's not so easy for the players to know they're not the number one choice. They have to be okay with being on the bench. And you're not going to find a lot of high-level, high-quality keepers that are comfortable being on the bench, because that's a position where you can't just, it doesn't change. You don't substitute during the game. You don't waste a substitute on keeper unless there's an injury or if there's a red card, you need to come in. It's not something you can expect. So when you're not playing, you're really not playing. And so if you think that you're going to have someone on the bench who can play for many other teams across the continent, you're kind of lying to yourself. So I don't know what kind of keeper would be best to bring in. It would have to be one that understands their role and can understand that if they get called on, this is their chance for X amount of time, but they're going to have to relinquish that. It's not going to be one of those, even if you have a great performance, you stay kind of things. Because Kelleher did have some great performances, but we knew as soon as Ali was healthy, there was no chance Kelleher was keeping his spot. Yeah. Even though there were people saying, "Yeah, wait, let's hold off on Allison coming back." I think Kelleher is fine.
Yes.
That won't happen.
Name names.
No thanks, not today.
I think Serzi was one of them. I'll name names. I didn't think it was even a question. I know, it came up as a question, but I know, I agree with that. But how uncomfortable would you be if they basically said, hey, we can turn this around, this 30 million, get some more depth elsewhere, make, two Trafford type signings, if you will, and promote Adrian up, or have one of the young kids step up. He's ready to go. Would you be comfortable going into a season knowing, obviously, you have a very clear, arguably the world's number one as your number one, but behind him is just like, who's this kid? And then it's like, oh my God, it's Adrian behind him. So, like, are you comfortable going into a season like
that? On the premise of Ali staying healthy and me knocking on wood, yes. I feel like if Kelleher is to be sold and there isn't any business of getting a new keeper in, then the organization feels strongly enough that one of the younger kids is ready and they will be the next in line kind of deal and take over in those situations that need taking over. So from that aspect, yes. From the perspective of Ali having injury concerns and us seeing what's happened in the past, then maybe I wouldn't be as comfortable. But it's hard to sit here and say Kelleher doesn't deserve it, because he's played some great football and he's had some wonderful games, and I understand how frustrating it can be as a keeper knowing that you have the quality to play, not anywhere, but play in most teams and not being able to get that chance. So if from an emotional side of feeling bad for Kelleher, I would respect the move, but from a comfort level, yeah, I don't know how comfortable I'd be without Kelleher as the two.
Yeah, and I guess my concern is, anybody, let's say if your scenario is there's no Kelleher and you're going with like a young kid and Adrian, and you're like, I don't feel right about that. Anything that's going to make you feel right is possibly going to cost more than Kelleher, is probably what I'm guessing, unless you get another goalie that's pretty much done, but will be a reliable backup and is okay with being the reliable backup. Not everybody is going to be okay with that, even if they're, because you can get a goalie that's, up in ages, but they might be looking at it as like, my window is almost closed over here, so I got to play. And you can have some saying, hey, this window, the breeze is nice, I'll just keep it open a little bit. And, by not playing, that's fine. I'm just going to be still in the environment, still making the money. And it's kind of like the itch, right? Like you're going to be part of the team in the locker room and stuff like that. And in a successful club, like chasing trophies, not just sitting as a backup at like, I know why I keep throwing Forrest under the bus this morning, but like, like somebody like Forrest or something like that. But okay. Yeah, it's going to be weird. And that's why in some ways I agree with Saidu. Yeah, I would prefer things get going so we have a clearer picture, but that's like kind of a selfish so I have a peace of mind kind of an ordeal than anything else. Do you expect anything to happen between now and, what is it, Friday? I think is the first game, right? The 14th is the opening game for the Euros. I don't know the Copa America dates offhand, but do you expect anything to be happening? Hey, we haven't even had the freaking hey, Richard is back. What's up, Richard? I thought Richard was like, back to being normal, but he's back to being a troll. But I thought, are you comfortable waiting, or do you want something to happen?
It depends on what that something is. If something just randomly happens that doesn't send a lot of confidence throughout the club, then I wouldn't want that to happen. But I think overall, I am comfortable waiting, because I understand why you have to wait. And, it is what it is this summer. It's just, that's the kind of, unfortunately, it also is coming at a time where you just had one of the most successful managers in your club history leave, and now you've got this guy coming in. So I think everyone is just a little bit maybe on edge about that, because they're thinking, if you have this new guy, you're having this new guy come in and there's nothing being done, like, are we even supporting him? What's going on? Blah, blah, blah. But there's stuff to first take care of at our club. I think we've seen some of the comments. We've mentioned the contracts, right? Van Dijk, Mo, Trent, stuff like that needs to get taken care of too. So
yeah, it's weird. Last week, because I'll be back tonight with the Monday night podcast, 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern. And last week when we talked, like when we were looking, talking about like, topics that we should cover and stuff like that. I was more like, hey, Arne has not talked yet, so it's a good time to talk about the Euros. Because I kind of figured by today we would have heard a lot from Arne, and that will be the main focus of our conversation. So it's almost like, let's get the Euros out of the way, kind of a deal. I don't know. It's just like, I understand why in some ways, but I think you would think Liverpool would feel that, like everybody hearing from Arne, even if it is a vanilla conversation, would make everybody feel more comfortable and at ease knowing nothing is happening, or maybe they don't care about how comfortable the fans feel about the new season. But hey, here's the good news. On Thursday we'll have the Liverpool Supporters Club from Netherlands on, so we'll be able to find out a lot about, I think, how the Dutch feel about him, like what we can expect, because I think everybody wants that first press conference to see what we're going to get, like responses to questions, demeanor, and stuff like that. But that's going to be just a snapshot. So I'm hoping we can get some information about how Feyenoord fans, I mean, I know it was like a huge farewell he got over there, so he's valued over there. But it'll be interesting to see what they think we should be getting ready to expect over here. But let it happen already. Otherwise, we're going to be talking all Euros anyway in a few days over here. So Monday, I told you my beautiful plans for today. What do you got going on? Who's getting groomed?
Michelle and I, we're both getting groomed.
Wait, at the same place?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
A little eyebrow treatment. Whenever she wants to get her eyebrows done, she's like, "Hey, you should come with and just take care of the shit on your face." And I'm like, "Okay, that's fine. I'll go."
Oh man, it's going to be interesting. Okay, and then maybe she can show you, once you guys do some grocery shopping, she can take you to the cheese section and show you the difference between feta and goat cheese, for God's sake.
I know the goddamn difference. I just couldn't remember it.
Man, I thought, like when everybody's like, yeah, spreadable feta, it's everywhere. And I was like, wait, what? Like, it's been like 2 decades I have been without this stuff. But
you're just walking around with a blindfold around your eyes at the grocery store. Like, what the hell is everyone looking at? This is ridiculous.
I mean, honestly, I don't roam around, and I don't expect it to be, when you go to, obviously Jasmine is in Wisconsin, so we go to, on the way to Wisconsin, there are all those like cheese joints, cheese factory, blah, blah. But they don't make feta, so it's all Wisconsin cow cheeses. But like I say, I'll be back tonight with the gang, Bickler and Galley, 7:00 Central, 8:00 Eastern. We'll find something to talk about, or we'll just talk about Southgate and have just Galley go on for like a full hour while we relax with Bickler over there, who doesn't care at all about like national soccer and stuff like that. But have an awesome week, everybody. A great Wednesday, and I'll see you guys back tonight. Take care.